तिलावत सैयद अवैस अहमद.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وكذلك أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا وصرفنا فيه من الوعيد لعلهم يتقون أو يحدث لهم ذكرا. فتعالى الله الملك الحق. ولا تعجل بالقرآن من قبل أن يقضى إليك وحيه وقل رب زدني علما.
Translation Yusuf Dosu.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum.
The following translation is from the Holy Quran, chapter 20, verses 114 and 115. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I begin in the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful. And thus have we sent it down, the Quran in Arabic, and we have explained therein certain warnings that they may fear God, or that it may give birth to the divine remembrance in them. Exalted then is Allah, the true King, and be not impatient for the Quran. Ere its revelation is completed unto thee, but only say, O my Lord, increase me in knowledge. Jazakumullah. Thank you.
Jazakallah. Ji, when you going to serve introduction.
Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Respected Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hazur, I will be presenting the overview of the Department of Education, Taaleem, USA in the next 5 minutes approximately. And the overarching theme of the department, the design of the department, is based upon the instruction that we have received from Hazrat Khalifatul Masih over the past few years. And number one is that Hazur has asked us to compile data of all the US students, and then from that data to identify the barriers that our students are facing. Hazur has asked us to expect 12th grade as the minimum standard for every Ahmadi to achieve, and then Nobel Prize to be their targets in life, among other instructions. Hazur, today I present to you some of the snapshot of the data just from the West Coast students. When Hazur graced us with his presence last year, I presented the data for the whole country. But from West Coast, broadly speaking, we have about 163 male students registered and 253 female students registered in our database. From that subset, out of those 163 students, Hazur, when we ask them as to what is their highest level of education today, this graph shows you that breakdown, that about 94 of them are in the high school range, The next 32 are between high school GED, and then 19 have already achieved a bachelor's degree. 10 have an associate's degree, which is 2 years college after the 12-year education in high school. 4 have master's degree. 3 are in the PhD and doctoral programs. Moving further from that, Huzur, out of those 163 male students who were registered, who are on the West Coast, 126 registered for this meeting. A subgroup of that is present in front of Khalifatul Masih today. And this pie chart shows that about 75% of those students are from California. There's another 20% which have flown in from other parts of the country, like Virginia and Chicago, and the last one, about 5% from rest of the West Coast. Based on Huzur's instruction, when we ask these students as to what are they doing, what are they planning to do in life, Huzur, this graph gives us that answer, where we see an overwhelming majority, close to 30% of our students leaning towards medicine, and the next most commonest profession that we find out is undecided, that they really don't know what they want to do. And after that, we look at, and some of them want to go into research and academics, about 10%, 8%, 9% want to go into law, about 5% want to go in media. But this uncovers a trend for us that our students require more guidance for career counseling, and I will share that data with you in a minute. The next slide, Huzur, tells us what they are doing today. So as of today, we have 5 students from West Coast who are in PhD programs, 4 who are medical doctors, 18 who are in master's degree. So this data spells out the more granular details. Huzur, we also asked about their language fluencies, and this slide shows us that despite being on the West Coast, we have 2 students who are fluent in Chinese, 5 students who are fluent in Spanish, French, and about 24 in Spanish. Based on this data, Huzur, there are certain barriers that we uncover. The largest one we face over and over again is a lack of understanding, lack of knowledge from the parents' side as well as the students' side. Many of the parents who are immigrants, Huzur, they need to know more about how the system here in US works. And similarly, many of the students who go to colleges, financial burden is one of their biggest challenges, because college tuition can run anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 for private schools for 4 years. But there are many aids available, there are many scholarships available, and we try to make sure that students have access to that. The second barrier, Huzur, is mentorship, as I touched upon earlier, that they need more guidance. Just today, I received an email from someone from East Coast who is now at the college stage and does not know what to do with his career. And within 2 hours, we were able to connect that student with 2 other students who will now be able to help him guide his educational questions. And third, of course, is the financial barriers. So to sum it up, Huzur, these are the services that our department provides, broadly speaking, to our students here in America. We conduct an education day in most of the Jama'ats all around the country. We give away plaques to those students who are graduating. Typically, we give away 400 to 500 plaques a year. We are able to connect our students with mentors. We have over 24 videos on YouTube from different channels, from different professions, where students can connect with an Ahmadi who is in that profession. At Jalsa Salana, Huzur, on the main Jalsa Salana on the East Coast as well as on the West Coast, we hold a large Talim camp or a booth where students can come and meet a lot of these people. When they're applying for colleges and they need help for their essays, we try to help them there as well. And then they get internal, external scholarships. In the end, Huzur, I would humbly request your prayers for specifically these 3 members who have helped me enormously for today's class. Ehsan Mahmood Khan Saab, who's sitting right here. He's the local education Talim secretary for LA East. And Riaz Muhammad Saab, who's in Dallas, and Rafi Ahmad Saab. Huzur, alhamdulillah, the team has helped us enormously, and we request your prayers.
Yeah. Is it a students' meeting or students' parents' meeting?
This is students with Hazrat Khalifatul Masih.
As I can see in some of the faces that I don't think they are students. Are you a student? Yes? Acha, doing PhD?
No, I'm going to optometry in Chicago.
Acha. So after having had retirement, you have restarted your education?
I immigrated to United States in 2002, and we started our family, and I had young kids, so I have to go to work full time. And alhamdulillah, now my kids are in that age.
Acha, so they are still students. So you have removed my doubt. Anyway, sit down. And there are some primary school students.
Ji Hazur, we just wanted to increase
fill the chairs.
Ni Hazur,
You just wanted to fill the chairs?
Hazur, this is a historic event for us. We wanted to have as many students have encounter with you, with your permission.
And I can see one of this man sitting here is from Canada. He's studying in Canada. No? We have it. So, have you included him? There are some guests also from the neighboring country.
Ji Hazur, we have, because some of our students also have expressed the desire to join in Vancouver, those who live close to Seattle.
Achha. Please be seated. Acha, mashallah. So those sitting behind primary school students, do they have the comprehension of your presentation you are going to give here?
Ji Hazur, alhamdulillah, we've given them orientation. They've also attended a conference call. They understand what the department...
Those small students, primary school students. Eh?
Allah knows best.
They are very genius then. Achha, mashallah. So let's start with the presentation. Achha, PhD students presentation. How many PhD students are here? Sitting here are all of the West Coast students. Hmm?
About 10% of them have traveled from, about 20% from other parts of the country, but 80% plus are West Coast.
Now, there are how many in number?
The number was 126.
Those who are sitting here, I don't think it is 126.
This is 80 students. 126 registered, Hazur, and then ultimately
80.
We have about 80 students here today.
Who are sitting here.
Ji.
And those who are primary school or secondary school students should raise their hands. Count them for himself.
Please raise your hands really, really strongly up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, Hazur.
16. And total is 80.
80, ji.
Huh? So 1/5 is 20% is primary school. Hmm? Okay. Those who are
Hazur, these are middle school.
middle school.
6th grade and up.
6th grade and
Ji.
up to 12th grade.
Ji. 6th grade to 8th grade will be middle school, and 8th from 9th to 12th.
So there are 3 categories here.
Ji.
Primary up to 5th grade.
From 1st to 5th is elementary or primary.
Elementary, and then 6th to 8th is middle.
Is middle.
And 9th to 12th is secondary school, high school. Mm-hmm. Take. Sure. So, how many PhD students are here?
PhD students.
You can raise your hand, but you are a guest. Mm-hmm. So they are MSc students? Those who are sitting here? Huh? Achha. Take. So, 2 of them are going to present their
So
paper?
all 3 of them are ready. If you so choose, they all
okay.
have.
No, if they are ready, they can come.
Ji Hazur, they do.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi
Al-Islam.
I am a third-year PhD student at University of Illinois at Chicago, and my project involves the improvement of dental orthopedic implant surfaces. The images here are showing the major components of the orthopedic and dental implants: knee implant, hip implant, and the tooth implant. As you can see, each one of them have separate components, some of them that go directly into the bone, some of them that represent the joint itself where the rubbing is required, and those are the main components of my research. Within those 2 components, there are 3 types of important issues. One is corrosion at the top, which involves the bodily fluids that interact with these metals or polyethylenes or other products that are used. Number 2 is wear at the left corner on the bottom, which involves rubbing, and you have loss of material. And on the bottom right, you have cellular attachment for those components that are directly in contact with the bone. And as you can see, they're all interconnected. For example, if you have corrosion issues where you have loss of material, that can affect the cellular attachment, and that can also cause issues with wear, and they're all related in that manner. So in my lab, we conduct research in terms of modifying these surfaces. Generally speaking, we affect the roughness or we add coatings. As far as roughness is concerned, as you can see on the top right, we have smooth surfaces which are normally used for the joints. We want them to be as smooth as possible so there is no friction involved when a person is moving their joint. On the middle right, we have a micro rough surface, which is generally preferred for cellular attachment because a rougher surface means we have more surface area for cells to attach. And on the bottom right, we have anodized surface, which involves the nanotubes, which has nano roughnesses, so it's even more surface area for the cells. In our research, it has been shown that the nano rough surfaces, the anodized surfaces, prove the best quality for cellular attachment. As you can see, it almost looks like it is within, looks like the inside of a bone marrow, and that's what it's supposed to represent. For coatings, we employ 2 techniques: thermal oxidation, which means we put the metal in a furnace and we heat it up to high temperatures and we introduce air or pure oxygen. And that oxygen goes into the metal and makes metal oxide, which is used as a barrier against corrosion and wear. On the bottom, we have atomic layer deposition, which I best describe it as a peanut butter sandwich, where you have bread, then peanut butter, then jelly, and bread again. That's one cycle, and you repeat it until you have a proper thickness. On the left, the 3 images that you see are the main techniques that we use to analyze these treatments that we have conducted. On the top, we have what's called FTIR, and it looks at the bonds of the chemicals, and if we see specific signals, then we know we have what we want, which in my research is a titanium dioxide for titanium alloy implants, which is the widely used material for orthopedic and dental implants. In the middle, we have a water contact angle measurement image, which is the easiest and most simplest way of measuring if a cell will attach to the surface or not. The lower the water contact angle measurement, the more preferred it is. We have shown that the anodized surface that I introduced earlier has the lowest contact angle measurements, under 5 degrees, which means it's very super hydrophilic. On the very bottom, we have ellipsometric ellipsometry, which is used to measure the thickness of the titanium dioxide that is used, whether it's atomic layer deposition or thermal oxidation. Something I should also add, why do we not redesign the implant? It's because those studies have already been done over and over again. It's very well understood what the mechanical properties are needed to be. Therefore, titanium is used most widely. But the surface is still a problem because of the bodily tissues and everything that touches the system and corrodes and wears away at the implant, and you have catastrophic failure. Titanium implants, they're used for orthopedic and dental. For example, 2010, we had about 320,000 implants for that year for the hip, 720,000 for the knee, and about 500,000 for the dental. Of those, 10% fail, and therefore this research is important because 10% of 320,000 means about 33,000 people that are suffering. Each implant can cost upwards to $130,000, and this research hopes to reduce that cost as far as money and personal suffering is concerned. Jazakallah.
Chair. So, do they have any question? Is there anybody who's doing dentistry? No? So you are doing, you're still studying or you have completed your?
I'm in my 3rd year right now. In fact, last week I spoke with my professor and I may be able to end next year.
So you complete your PhD and then come back to your?
No, Hazur, I will finish my PhD and inshallah I will teach.
You have completed your dentistry course?
No, what we do is we collaborate with the dentistry department at UIC, and they conduct the cellular experiments, and we do the chemical engineering aspect of the problem.
Acha. So your topic is, your research is?
Surface enhancement of these implants.
After implantation or before, or any of?
Actually, well, the biggest problem that I encountered in the very beginning of my research was when we send our samples to the campus that deals with cellular experiments, they let the samples sit. And we realized that these results are very inconsistent. So I looked into it a little bit more and I realized that these techniques that we do on these samples, they in fact have an aging process where water from these metals is lost over time. And that affects cellular experiments. So I discussed with my professors, and we went into all these experiments to maintain the low water contact angle over long periods of
What
time.
material do you use for implantation?
We use titanium alloy. It's type 5. It has aluminum and vanadium.
The surface material is titanium.
The surface is titanium itself, and what happens is just like rust for iron, titanium itself has a rust component. It's titanium dioxide. It happens instantaneously, and that is what makes it a very good material.
How long does it last?
It can last up to 15 years if you have a good, healthy body. Problem is that more and more young people are getting into injuries from athletics, and those 15 years, if you're 30 years old, for example, by 55, you need to redo the implantation, and that means...
What correlation implanted tooth has with the healthy body?
The healthy body means that it can interact with the implant material better and the cells can adhere better. If the body is older, then the bone quality is poorer and you need more surface enhancement for the cells to have a better chance of attaching. And if that doesn't happen, then you have this material fibrosis that occurs between the implant and the cells, and essentially you have dislocation.
No, do you implant this tooth on live gum, or you make it dead before you do it?
Hazur, right now, the stage at which I am, I only do cell experiments. We seed cells, osteoblasts, which are advanced stage of stem cells. They are osteoblasts, so they're bone cells. We seed them on them and see how they react. We look at the short-term reaction and we look at long-term. We have seen that the long-term makes no difference, but it's the short-term that matters. So, for example, many years ago for heart patients, we would have them wait 3 weeks in the hospital. Now we want them to up and running in 3 days. Same concept.
It's not like the procedure of it used to have where you make the nerves dead, RCT. No, it is not like that.
I'm sorry,
what you call it, the implantation.
Root canal?
Root canal, yes.
The root canal, essentially, you just take out the dead tissue, and if it's too much of it, you replace the tooth.
The implantation is not like that.
The implantation happens after that. So if you lose the whole tooth, they put a screw into the jaw, and on top of that, they put a crown. The screw aspect of it is what I'm interested in because that goes into the body itself. So our research protects it from...
So the washer or the metal where the screw is placed,
yes,
is embedded on a dead gum, or it's a live gum?
It's alive. It has to be live, otherwise there will be no grabbing in effect. And therefore you'll have dislocation. And unfortunately what happens for other major joints is that the implant comes out of the bone, and you sometimes have to do amputation. So that usually happens with persons that have injuries or are older, don't have good bone quality. So we want to do these surface enhancements to give them a chance. Especially because nowadays we have an older population, especially in America. We have this generation called boomers, baby boomers, that are from the 1950s. And
it also depends on the type of food you are taking?
The type of food? For example, my mom, she was needing knee replacement. They told her she needs to lose weight. So in effect, it doesn't matter.
For the tooth
the food actually, it doesn't matter because the way when you eat, the saliva counteracts whatever you're eating, and the acidity is what matters, and that changes to normal right away.
No, if it is acidic food, does it affect
it doesn't affect as much. What affects is actually injuries. The injuries and infections cause acidity, and that's what causes long-term damage.
So your guarantee is for 15 years?
15 years, yes. Okay. And dental implants actually have a success rate of 95 to 98%. So dental implants are not that bad, but because there's so many of them, for example, 500,000 a year, that means 25,000 people have to redo the implantation if they have enough material.
How much does it cost?
The cost? Anywhere between 11 to 130,000, depending on who you ask.
On one?
On one implant.
One implant.
Yes. And it can take up to 3 weeks recovery, etc. So,
So
if
if
you
you're
have
go-
to,
if you are going to implant the full denture, it will cost you millions of dollars.
it can cost a lot of money, yes.
Huh?
In fact, I had an image earlier, if I may.
So-
Here is one
So
implant.
instead of wasting that much money, the patient will not prefer to live without tooth instead without
That-
teeth instead of.
That has been the case in history, but nowadays people have disposable income, so they do want to look better. Research has shown that the teeth has depression components to it, so they want to look really good, and so they will spend the money even if they have to,
So-
credit and whatnot.
So insurance companies sponsor this.
This research.
I mean, not research. I mean, those patients who are insured.
Mm-hmm.
Do they get this expenses from the insurance company, or do
It depends on the
person
country.
person himself has to pay some amount?
It's from what I understand, it's half-half. In America, it's a little different. I know in England, it's a much better system, but
Yeah, much better system because of national health.
yes.
No, but I don't think national health care for dental implantation.
I think you have to pay more to get that extra care, but even then, it's half-half. They don't cover 100%. So, if, for example, a dental implant can go up to $6,000, that means $3,000
So
out of your own pocket.
Then the patients would prefer to have half denture.
Yes.
ठीक है. Right.
Jazakallah.
Next. Honeybee.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I am Mohamed Al-Buraki. I'm scientific researcher at the Laval University in Quebec, in Canada. So I'm specialized on the genetic and behavior of honeybee. So I've chosen this project I'm dealing with right now as a postdoctoral researcher, which is the impact of the use of pesticides and the infection, the viral infection on the population of honeybee in Quebec City. So basically, when we use any kind of pesticides, especially nowadays the neonicotinoids pesticides, these pesticides are very dangerous for everything, but we are obliged to use them for food safety. So they are systemic pesticide basically, so they will move inside of the plants as you see here, and they will attend the flowers, then the pollen. So the bees will come to the flower and they will collect the pollen and the nectar also. So then they will be affected by the pesticide. They will carry it, as we see, to the hives, their hives. So we have here different cases. The first case is that if the bees, for some reason, is unable to reach again the hive, we will lose that bee and we will have a decrease in the quantity of workers in the hives. This is one case. The second case, so this case, the bee is disoriented, or as said Huzur, Sukara, so she will not be able to go to the hive. And in the second case, the bee will be able to reach the hive, but the problem is that she will affect all the hives, all what we have inside the hive, like the other adult bees and the pollen here in the second image, as well as the honey in its hive and the royal jelly. So everything will be polluted by the pesticides. So we have tried to detect the sublethal doses of the pesticides inside of the hives. So firstly, we have analyzed by using a specific method called HPLC. So we have investigated for two kinds of pesticide, which are the thiamethoxam and the clothianidine. These pesticides are from the class of the neonicotinoid pesticide, systemic pesticide. In the pollen collected from the hive, and so we see in that photo our apiaries, Then we collect the pollen in the first level, and we test whether there is the residue of pesticide in that pollen. And in the second image here is the same apiary. We collect the adult honeybee, and we have measured the level of the acetylcholine esterase gene. So more this expression of that gene, the acetylcholine esterase, is high, means that the bees are under stress, and they are probably affected by that pesticide. So the result is that we have found, I have a video here, but it's not working, unfortunately. Yeah. We have found different kind of pesticide inside of the hives, fungicide, neonicotinoids, and herbicides. We've detected that in the pollen and in the adult bees. We have seen also a high level of the acetylcholine esterase genes. We found a high level in the adult bees located in treated field, which means that the bees which are in the treated field, corn field, are more stressed than the bees located in a non-treated field. For the viruses, we've detected also 3 or 4 kind of viruses. As we have viruses for human, we have also viruses affected honeybees, the honeybees. So the black queen cell virus, we have detected many cases, and this virus is more present during the wintering time when the bees are hibernating, let's say. And we also have detected the deformed wing virus, which is more dangerous than the previous one. We have detected that virus in all the seasons and in very high level. So what we are now suggesting is that probably there is a synergetical effect between these two, the pesticides, the use of the pesticides with sublethal doses, and the presence of the infection by these two viruses. And that synergy between that two factors is probably one reason for the CDD phenomenon around the world, which is the abbreviation of colony collapse disorder. Jazakumullah.
Who are these 3 people? ये कौन है रिजवान रियाज हैं?
This is from the previous presentation.
अच्छा. So we are bound to see their faces after every presentation. अच्छा. That's all?
That's all. 3 minutes.
You said that there's hibernation period for bees, right?
Excuse me.
Hibernation period for bees?
Yeah.
Yes.
During the winter, yeah.
During the winter. And if they are affected by the pesticides, or which you say the process of sukara, and if they are not active during that period, and they didn't collect enough nectar, and they didn't make the honey and the propolis and the food which is very much needed by the queen, then and immediately after that hibernation period starts, then queen will not die because of hunger, or will not get weak because of lack of enough nourishing food.
Exactly. This is one reason, Hazur, that when we do not prepare well for the wintering period, our bees or our hives, if we collect a lot of honey, we don't let them have like half of the cake, as we say. If we take everything from the hive, and the hive enter to the wintering period with a weak reserve of honey, and with all this accumulation of pesticides inside, this hive will probably die during the winter.
Okay, this is also one of the reasons of reducing the number of beehives in the world?
It could be. We know that there is like in Canada, for example, the wintering loss of bees is around 15%. So 15%, if we lose 15% of our sheptel, during the next year, it is normal mortality, we'll call it. But what is happening around the world, it's much more than that.
More than that. It has reached now, gone more than 30%, I think.
We have 50. We have in some countries they have reported 30. Some other country 70%. So, and the problem started in California. In fact, the first researchers they have signaled that from here, from California, and then everybody during the Congress have said also we are having an increase in our bee losses.
And the honey collected here or honeybees kept here are in the agriculture farms or in the bush?
Here they have mainly commercial beekeepers.
They rely on agriculture farming, crops, orchards.
Most on trees, especially almond here, but also of course on other cultures also.
And you are doing your research in Quebec. What type of crops are grown there?
In Quebec is a small city, you know. We have mainly corn, we have wheat and barley, and trees. It's more in the south with the border of the US. So this is mainly what they have, and sunflower.
They collect nectar from the crops, wheat and corn?
They collect nectar from they don't. That's a very good question, because in fact they don't collect nectar from the corn.
Yes, they cannot.
They cannot
yes.
From the corn.
Yes.
But they collect pollen as a source of protein only. But they collect nectar, of course, from other flowers.
No, that's not because you cannot collect nectar from corn cobs, you know.
Yeah, you can't reach
they are long tubes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So, the honey in your area where you are doing your research is collected from the plants.
Yes.
Nectar, I mean, is collected.
Yes.
From. Achha. So, and those plants are also sprayed with any of the pesticide or weedicide or any.
The pesticide we are testing is a very specific pesticide called Cruiser, and it is treated only on the field of corns. But the other plants, they are not treated.
If they are not getting nectar, or they cannot get nectar from the corn, and most of the pesticides is normally used on corn fields. So why is it affecting the quality of honey and the honey beekeepers?
Yes, Hazur, it is for the honey. There is no problem for that pesticide because the bees will not collect nectar from the corn field. But for the pollen, it's a problem because they will go and bring pollen from the field of corn.
They make propolis from the pollen?
From the corn, they make the bee bread. They feed their descendants and they feed themselves also in the hive. So they mix it with honey and they do like a small, what we call it in English, they do like a pat and then they stock it in the
They make
cells.
wax with it? No?
No, wax is...
Or they also include this in making propolis?
A little bit. 15% of the propolis, 15 is made from pollen.
And if there are pesticides nowadays, which is not necessary that when your plant is flowering, when you apply pesticide or insecticide or any weedicide at that stage, it will affect the flower or the pollen or the nectar. But there are some pesticides which have a residual effect. Even if you spray them at the very early stage, their effect will last till the end of the crop.
Exactly. This is the systemic pesticide.
Yes.
And the pesticide we are trying is by dressing. So they will add the pesticide with the seeds. So they are not spraying that pesticide on the
Especially
plants.
those pesticides which include mercury. There are certain pesticides which include mercury.
Yeah, that is a very old class of pesticide. Nowadays, it's not used.
So they're still using systemic pesticides, no?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So why don't they switch over to just ordinary surface pesticides?
Switch on what?
To non-systemic pesticides.
They basically, the systemic pesticide is the last version and the most developed pesticides.
Last resort of getting crop.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
Yes, sir. So either you feed human being or you feed honeybee.
It is not exactly like that, because on the crop we don't really need that pesticide, but the company of pesticides, as they are earning a lot of money and they have a lot of power and influence, they are still selling that kind of pesticide, and we don't really use it. It is not the efficiency of this pesticide on the corn specifically. It is really useless according to many studies, but they are still now pushing the farmers to use the pesticide, and we are, as a beekeeper, suffering from that use, which is useless use on the corn.
But have you had any idea, or have you had any information up to now that what is the real cause, or what is the, up to what percentage is the cause of killing honeybees or these pesticides have?
The systemic pesticides have.
These pesticides are killing 30% of the honeybees?
If we.
What is the real cause?
The real cause of the CDD phenomenon.
Is it known up till now, or you are still on it?
What we know till now, in the International Congress, when we spoke with everybody from all the countries, they said that it's a multifactorial cause. So there is an accumulation of many factors. It is not only pesticides. There is mites, varroa, parasites, yes. New model life, also the use of mobile phone and all this climate changement also. So all these factors are contributing to the loss of the bees. So it's not one factor only.
The vibration in the air through the cell phones and all these things is important. Also affecting their antenna system.
Exactly. Yes. So this is why Huzur, they are sukara. They can't.
So they are not that active.
Exactly. They can't fly and go back to the hive.
Even sometimes when they are telling the honey, the bees in the hive, that they have found some good place for getting nectar, and the distance is this much, and if you go into this speed and this direction and this distance, so when they are just giving them, they use this sign language. So if they are not very active, they may mislead.
Exactly. This is exactly what is happening. Because of the use of the sublethal doses, the bee will be like drunk, and she will get wrong information to the other bees about the distance of the field where they are supposed to go and to bring their nectar, or the angle of from the sun. So the other worker, they will go and they will find nothing.
They will go on the wrong way.
Or they will go on the wrong way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Achha. Chalo. Any question? Yes.
Do you happen to know of, like you said, it was multifactorial?
Can you have the mic, please?
You said that there were many causes to, the bees and what's happening to them. Of all the causes, what would be, let's say, the top 2 or 3 most damaging?
The last Congress, the International Congress I attended, it was in 2009, I think. The main cause is Varroa jacobsoni, which is a mite
Yes.
parasite, and the use of pesticide.
Which goes into the hives.
Yeah, it is a
Yes.
parasite.
And then they eat, yes.
It is a small mite, Hazur.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, sucking from the blood of the bees, in fact.
Oh.
So this is what they conclude, all the researchers, that varroa mite is number one, and secondly, the use of pesticides.
And where would like pollution fall into place?
All what it is related to the ecology, it is very hard to measure the impact of it on the bees or on whatever, even in the normal diversity. It's very difficult to discern all what is related to the ecology in general. So we don't, but for sure it has an impact, but it is difficult to give it as a number.
Okay, and the ACHE gene, is that what it was called?
Yeah.
What exactly does that do to the bee system?
This gene is it gives enzyme which is which relates it's in the junction of the nerve system, and it's an enzyme which contribute to the link between the two nerves. So when you get more segregation of that enzyme, you will have like an stimulation, constant stimulation of the nerve system. So the bees will start to shake and will not be able to do anything. So this is the reason of the...
And last question, sorry. Just in terms of the pollution, not the pollution, the pesticides. What is your best battle plan, or what are you guys working on in terms of, you know?
They're still working on it.
Oh, they're still working on it. Okay. Okay, ठीक है.
We are still looking on it.
Okay, that is all.
But what are you doing anyway? What are you doing? What is your subject?
What am I studying? Currently, I'm undecided.
Huh?
Currently, I'm undecided.
Undecided. What is your present qualification?
I'm looking into computer programming. It's something that I'm very interested in and have a lot of, you know, it's
But
something.
it seems as if you have read much about honeybees.
I just happen to really like honeybees, and I've seen a lot of stuff that happened, and it made me curious, so I've been reading about it for a while.
You are trying to how we can make beehives from computers.
Hopefully, yeah. Maybe that would help them find their way back home.
Yes. Achha. Anything else? Go on. Anything? Yes. Yeah.
I too have a little interest in the bees, and I was reading a while ago that the African killer bees are also a problem, especially in the southern hemispheres. And I think the problem is now up to California and Texas. So would you say in those areas, do those pesticides help the killer bees take over those hives, or are they themselves just that dominant?
Basically, at the end, the local or the indigenous bees will take over in its own territory, you know, so there is no worries for that. So you can have like some attacks or some losses of small population of bees, especially when you import a foreign queen or bees from another area, because the most and better adapted bees are always the local bees in that area. So I don't think this will be a problem.
They don't migrate from one country to another country.
No, they can't.
Yes.
But human being, the people, they brought them from another.
They bring them. Hanji.
Is there any role of cholinesterase inhibitors that we give in humans in case of insecticide poisoning in bees?
I don't really know, but the problem is that when the bees will get poisoned, she will be outside of the hive mainly. So You can't give her an injection, I mean, because you will have the most, you will lose the bees when they are outside. So like maybe, I don't really know, I'm trying to find an answer, you know, but as long as I know, no.
If they die within the nest, within the hive, then the workers will throw her out.
Yes, Huzur, because the bees are very clean,
yes,
and they have a very clean system. This is why Hadrat Khalifat Masih al-Rabi' talk about it and say that the nizam of the Khilafah is exactly like a hive. We have a queen and worker and specificity in each.
They are thrown out. just like Ikhraj Jama'at. Okay. Right. Achha. Yes.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yes, yes.
My question was that earlier you stated that the bee population has been decreasing. So has this affected the crop production worldwide, and how much have we been getting?
There is some studies on that subject. I don't really have the number, but the crop production has been influenced by the decrease of the number of bees, but I don't really have the number in my mind. But there is impact on them also.
Where bees are used for pollination, there it is possible that there will be decrease of crop production, but where there is the bees are not playing any role in pollination, then it should not affect, I think.
Of course, yeah, Huzur, but mainly bees, the honeybee, they pollinate 80% of all the flower around the world. So they have a huge impact. So once we lose the bee, the human being maybe will be in big trouble, you know.
So where you don't keep bees, then the wild bees are playing that role?
Wild bees also. In fact, the 80% include the wild bees, not only the honeybee, the domestic honeybee. They include the wild and the domestic bees.
Right? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Currently, I'm a high school senior, and I'm thinking of going to biology.
Acha, grade 12?
Hanji.
Acha, inshallah.
Exactly.
Acha, Jadi? Young stars are also coming up, huh?
Does the pesticides affect the honey and which we eat?
Yes, it does. Once the pesticides reach the honey, we will collect the honey, we will eat the honey, so we will have the pesticides in our plate. So this is why it is very dangerous.
You see, you don't take much of the honey. You should not worry about that. But you take too much of vegetable, and the crops, cereals and such type of things. Wherever this pesticide is being used on these crops, there is some residual effect. When you take potato, when you eat any other type, tomatoes or other type of vegetables, they do have residual effect in them. So it is also affecting you. So you cannot stop taking wheat, rice, corn or vegetable. Can you? You will not survive then. So just say Bismillah and then eat everything. Right? Okay.
The people give parasites to the bees. So why not they just stop, or the police catches them, so we don't have a problem.
The
so we don't have a big problem like like Huzur just said that having parasites in our plates. So why don't they stop him or catch the people who give parasites to the bees?
Pesticides, you mean?
Yeah, pesticides.
Yeah, in fact, we don't really give directly to the bees pesticide. We use the pesticide on the plant to protect them from the insects and to increase the quantity of of crops to feed the population around the world. So in some crops we are obliged to use pesticides. So this is a very huge question. It's either we use pesticides or we go back to the old fashion, like the bio, what we call it in France.
We don't catch them because the governments also encourage the pesticide makers and the farmers to make and apply those pesticides, right?
Yeah.
One. And secondly, there are certain laws preventing the farmers not to use pesticides on certain type of fields or up to certain level. If they go beyond that, then they can be held responsible for it and get punishment, right?
I have a question. So, if you digest the pesticides, does it harm you does it harm you severely?
For the bees, they can do a decomposition of the pesticides to two different new molecules, but in all cases, the two new molecules are also harmful for the bees, so it is the same.
No, he's asking whether when you take the pesticide, does it affect you also?
If you take it...
No, not directly. that is quite obvious. You will die within no time. But if you take those vegetables, and I am telling you that there is some residual effect on those crops and vegetables. And when you eat vegetables and crops, they also, have deposits in your body. So this is why now it's after a certain age, doctors say that you should use more vitamin A to drain out those accumulated pesticides or harmful chemicals in your body, right? I don't know whether the doctors agree with me, but this is what I believe.
Exactly.
So vitamin E is very useful. This is why they say you should take green vegetables, antioxidant and green vegetables, fruits and vegetables.
I have a question. Is all our food affected by pesticides, like not just plants? Because like some of is all our food infected with pesticides? Because
Yes, no, of course not. So you don't have to be worried a lot, We, where we use the pesticide, on what we use the pesticide, we probably will get a residue at the end. But this residue, all the governments around the world, they have a level, as said Huzur, of presence of pesticide. This level is very, very little. You can't find it in some time. So there is no worries, and the governments, they control that in all food, for example, in tomato, in crops, in wheat, in barley, in all the crops. So everything is supposed to be controlled, but in some case, of course, if the level of pesticide is high in some crops or other fruit, you will get it and you will eat it, and at that time you may be poisoned or having problem during the accumulation of this pesticide.
If it manages to get inside of you because you ate like food that was covered in pesticides, is there a chance that you might die?
What is this question?
If there is a high level of pesticide in the fruit, is there a chance to might die?
Yes, there are. This is why they said after you should not eat vegetable or fruits immediately after you spray on them, right? And I admit that I underestimated all the young boys. So they are quite competent. So now I cannot blame you, Fahim Yunus Sahab. Now I think you better. They will not leave you. Achha, that's all, I think.
So some students have questions, if you so please.
5 minutes, because we are already late by half an hour. Ji.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum.
Hazur, my name is Ahmed Masood.
Ahmed Masroor.
Masood.
Masood, achha, not my name.
Hazur, I've studied homeopathic medicine.
Achha,
I
mashallah.
have a degree in homeopathic medicine. Hazur, why is that so that it's still not a mainstream medical science? Why is it not?
You studied, you know better. But it's, there's in France and in Germany, there are lots of research is going on homeopathic. So one day, you will be, I hope, it will be at par with the allopathic medicine.
Inshallah.
Hanji.
Zur. My name is Sayyid Ibrahim Ahmed. My question is this, that there are many diversions in America. So how do we cure them? Like bad people and bad stuff. So how do we cure that diversions?
Kya keh rahe hain?
बहुत सारी diversions in society में,
Yes.
और bad influences in the society that
Yes.
Huzur has talked about in the sermon.
Yes. So, is affecting you, huh? So you should say istighfar, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, offer 5-time prayers, huh? Because there are certain things which are very, everything is not bad in the society. There are certain things which are good, there are some which are bad, right? So Allah Ta'ala has given you the wisdom and the sense. So you choose the good ones and thus shed out the bad ones. This is how you can prevent yourself from the bad effect of the society, right?
Jazakallah.
Hazur, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
My name is Osama Muzaffar. My question is that many students pursue the medical field and law field, and you have encouraged a lot of the MDs to pursue research and PhDs. Why is that important for us to do that?
You say there should be some balance. We need doctors, so those who are pursuing medicine, they should do. There are some other fields. There are some students who are interested in languages, they should do it. Archaeology, history, law, there are so many subjects. Why I am emphasizing more on research is this, that in Europe, I don't know much about United States and Canada, but here also the same situation, but in Europe, the local European students are not very much interested in research work. And the number of research workers is reducing there. So this is why I say one thing is to fill the gap, MD students should come up, right? One. Secondly, the research in any of the fields is such that these Western countries, they need you. Whether you are a research worker in physics or chemistry or biology or microbiology or biochemistry or any of the subjects, pure sciences, they need you. So where they do not like you or do not want to absorb you, they will be forced to absorb you in this way, right? This is one of the reasons. There are two reasons, right? So, if you are a good mathematician or you are good in physics, have done some research in physics, or some other subjects related to which NASA is doing. So they will be forced to take you there. Otherwise, normally, there's lots of scrutiny before NASA give you employment if you are not a local American. Huh? Haven't you seen it? I think this is my feeling that an Asian student or a student or a person of Asian or African origin is bound to go through lots of scrutiny before he is selected in any of those sensitive institutions. So if you are competent person and have good credential in research, then they will be forced to take you. Huh?
Exactly.
This is how you can govern the whole world, right? And this is how you can avoid any of the eruption of any of the world war if you are in research work.
Exactly.
2 minutes, a question. लो लड़का पहले खड़ा हो गया आपसे. Yes. Walaikum salam.
My name is Nuruddin, and I have a vision problem where my right eye is like nearsighted and my left is farsighted, and my left eye uses daytime vision during the night and nighttime vision during the day, and I see everything like not where they really are, and like colors like
Allah give you
differently.
sound health and
I want to know what I should do.
huh?
I want to know what I should do after school because I don't really know what I'm going to do for a job.
So when you complete your studies, inshallah, Allah will help you in getting some job for you. Huh? You just don't get disappointed. Huh? Work hard, continue with the same zeal. Huh? So Allah will help you, inshallah.
Jazakallah.
हाँ जी. बस हाँ और एक दे दें फिर एक मुलाकातें भी हैं. No, this one I think first. हाँ जी. Yes.
You yourself have a master's in agricultural economics. If you could just please tell us, why did you choose that field?
Why did I choose it? So I studied economics in my bachelor's, so luckily I had the opportunity to get admission in agriculture economics. This is why. So during our times, there was not a matter of choice. So wherever you get admission, you do it just for the sake of getting degree, right? But it's a good subject anyway. ठीक. अस्सलाम वालेकुम.